Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. It's a chilly morning in the nation's capital, and I'm here on a Friday with you, Lindsay.
It's really fall. Happy Friday.
Happy
We're both
Friday.
Need our coffee. I have coffee in my cup today as opposed to
mugs.
water. I got
Yes.
2 mugs. Yeah, let me. 2 coffees, 1 water. I'm getting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it all today. Coming up on Rising, in an extremely rare occasion, the co-hosts of The View are actually praising Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene over her efforts to end the government shutdown.
Plus, Israel has agreed to phase 1 of the peace plan to end the war in Gaza, which is terrific. Of course, many are celebrating the deal, so am I, but there are some expressing caution. We'll definitely get to that.
And New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted on charges related to mortgage fraud. But first, of course, we're going to start the show like we always do. Well, not on Fridays, but today we are. Robby, what is on your radar?
So, some ruminations from me on the state of things with legacy and establishment media. Now, if CBS News staffers are throwing fits of apoplexy over the announcement that Bari Weiss will be their new overlord, they're mostly doing so in private. A few have leaked to other media reporters that the general sentiment is one of depression. A throwing up emoji is not enough of a reflection of the feelings in here, they said. But we have yet to witness waves of public denunciation, resistance, or resignation. Others seem stuck in the bargaining phase of learning to cope with a terminal illness, which follows anger and precedes depression. I think that's where we are. One anonymous staffer suggested that everything would be okay as long as Weiss didn't mess with 60 Minutes. Next stop, acceptance. For Weiss, who exited the New York Times in 2020 during the summer of peak wokeness after her heterodox opinions on cultural issues alienated progressive staffers, this new gig constitutes a massive victory over the forces that sought to marginalize her. In addition to enlisting her to run the newsroom, CBS News' parent company Paramount has also purchased the Free Press, the news site that Weiss launched on Substack 3 years ago for $150 million. It's not even clear that CBS News is the upper limit of Weiss's new reach. Paramount is now owned by Skydance, a media company run by David Ellison, who's the son of billionaire entrepreneur Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle. Skydance has also set its sights on acquiring Warner Brothers, which owns CNN. So it's not impossible to imagine a future where Weiss runs CBS News and CNN and is thus utterly dominant in the category of establishment television media. Now, these various mergers are not being received particularly well by progressive foes of big business. Lefty antitrust outlet, for instance, The Lever, lamented this billionaire-backed conservative media takeover, which in their telling is a disaster for the overall media landscape. Quote, media companies are merging into ever larger conglomerates, that's according to Editor-in-Chief David Sirota, saying it's Orwellian that all this is happening. Now, the term Orwellian, of course, generally refers to a silencing effect. But what I find so striking about all these media industry consolidations is that they have not coincided at all with some vast successful effort to muzzle dissident perspectives or clamp down on the domain of acceptable opinions in journalism. On the contrary, the broader media landscape is less centrally controlled than ever before. While it's true that mainstream, establishment, and legacy organizations are either dying off, getting bought up, or coming under the auspices of massive corporate behemoths, shrinking the number of direct competitors in the space, yes, the impact of all this integration is negligible for news consumers. If that assertion causes you to roll your eyes, consider that a merger of CBS News and CNN would make less of a difference to the overall market than at any previous moment in American history. That's because the dominance of the big 4 television channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, no longer matters nearly as much. They now have to compete not just against each other, but against streaming, against social media, against the entirety of the internet. Alternative news programs on YouTube routinely get millions more viewers than cable. More people are listening to Joe Rogan on Spotify than bothering to turn on their television for the latest episode of 60 Minutes. There are news shows hosted on Instagram Live, X, Substack, Rumble, a variety of other platforms. The competition for people's attention is genuinely fiercer than ever before, and the existence of so many competitors means that no single perspective is dominant whatsoever. The rise of social media over the course of the 2010s led to a flourishing of conservative news programming, and the increased prominence of YouTube over the same time frame served the political left extremely well. Being worried about too much consolidation of television companies today, I think it's like being worried that a single firm might corner the horse and buggy market in the 1920s. Who cares? When progressives, as well as certain misguided Republicans, propose antitrust as a solution to media mergers, they're always fighting the last war. These properties are all losing market share relative to the extensive catalog of alternative platforms that also offer news, sports, and entertainment. So when politicians, activists, and media figures themselves complain about changes in their industry, their actual frustration is that people who share their politics no longer have nearly the same power to shape, curate, and gatekeep the limits of acceptable opinion and speech. They can't keep me at bay. There no longer exists a Walter Cronkite-esque figure whose own liberal-leaning perspective was presented to viewers as objective, dominating the airwaves. This is a disappointment to people who like and agree with Cronkite's progressive liberalism, but it's good news for everybody who would like to see more diversity, more disagreement, and more dissent. If you're really worried about Weiss's heterodox centrism coming in and ruining 60 Minutes, well, it's not as if the program represents some kind of last stand for hectoring progressivism. There are tons of similar left-coded podcasts, newsletters, and shows all over the internet. Zateo, The Majority Report, Bulwark, just to name a few. To make a long story short, media consolidation, not drying up the well of discourse. The well of discourse is overflowing with hot takes. That should make us more skeptical that it really matters who owns CBS or Warner Brothers. As Elon Musk always says, you are the media now.
Well, that brings me to my point, Elon Musk. I think when Trump's friends are starting to own more and more media outlets, like Elon Musk with X, or like his cohort of friends that are about to buy TikTok, it just makes it a little bit uncomfortable knowing that this is the same guy that just sued the New York Times, that is trying to sue other networks into non-existence, including CBS, and so trying to put people in place to be liaisons to make sure that it's going through what I feel is his lens, with his former ambassador now working at CBS. So there's just a lot of things that raise eyebrows, and I think there's right for concern. I said as many days in the past that I do think that Bari Weiss in this new position is a good thing, especially because she has a parallel leader and president of the company that will also report to Paramount and Skydance, and they will discuss together as opposed to reporting to one another about what the best idea for the company is. That person has already been in position, so understands the tonality of 60 Minutes, and she's going to bring fresh and new ideas to a company that's number 3 in the lineup behind ABC and NBC. So I don't have a problem with that, but I think there should be concern knowing that these people have the direct phone line of President Trump and knowing how petty he has shown us that he is and how much he wants people to go away that dislike or say anything about him that is he considers disdain, even if it's truth. And I think that, that should raise an eyebrow at the very least. You don't have to call it Orwellian or go to the corner of the horse and buggy market, but you should certainly be concerned if you look at this.
But you and I are about the same age. If we consider the historical perspective over the course of our lives, if you go back to when we were younger people, 80s, 90s, the domain of things you could express in the news and entertainment world was very limited because there wasn't that much competition. Now, what I'm saying is now, ironically, even though billionaires, politically motivated billionaires are acquiring social media companies, acquiring television companies, it's not reducing the range of things being expressed. The range of things being expressed is wider than ever before, and it keeps getting that way because even though they buy the last technology and then something new comes along. They buy a television company and then podcasts start. They buy a newspaper and then social media becomes where people get their news. They'll buy social media and next it'll be something else. They can corner an aspect of the market, but they can't corner the overall market because it's too innovative.
Yeah, and
I think
I believe more voices
and helpful
is better, but I also believe that you're battling with, and we're going to disagree on this, an endless amount of disinformation, depending on who's in charge.
You say it's disinformation, I say it's diversity of thought.
I like that you use the word diversity.
See, I'm all about diversity, real diversity.
New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted by a federal grand jury. When we come back, we'll have reactions to that indictment and why Democrats are once again accusing President Trump of weaponizing the Justice Department.